This is the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast, Episode 3. The Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast is a bi-weekly podcast dedicated to the world of scuba diving, ocean health, sustainability, and fostering a new generation of ocean stewards through diving education. Welcome, everyone, to this latest episode of the podcast. I'm Jeff Centropino, founder and president of the Scuba Educational Alliance of Connecticut. Thanks so very much for tuning in. Unfortunately, the weather down south has continued to be bad, very bad. Last time, much of the southeast was dealing with the devastation from Hurricane Helene, only to have an even bigger storm, Milton, hit Florida. Unprecedented? Maybe, but as we know, the storms are getting bigger and impacting wider swaths of the planet as it continues to heat up. Again, our hearts goes out to all those impacted. Now, after finishing recording today, I'll be finishing up my packing for our trip to Cayman Brac. Donna and I leave tomorrow and will spend the night in Miami before catching a direct flight to the Brac on Sunday morning. I'm certainly looking forward to getting back to the Brac after 18 years. And we are now just 1 month away from the DEMA show in Las Vegas. It's going to be a great time out there, and I'm really looking forward to connecting. The show is so very important to the dive industry. So important that the next Scuba Diving Industry magazine is devoted entirely to DEMA Show 2024. And I'll have an article about why it matters to the dive retailers. Now on today's show, I want to talk about an upcoming conference, COP16, and the Convention on Biological Diversity, and why it is important for coral reefs. But up first is Sea State, news and information. This is Sea State here on the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast for Thursday, October 17th, 2024. Up first today, the results are in from Reefs, that's the Reef Environmental Education Foundation's Discover the Sea photo contest. This year there were over 500 photos submitted and more than 4,500 votes cast. The contest had 5 different categories: fish portraits, macro, invertebrate, reef surveyor, and habitat seascape environment. Now, you can take a look at the top 3 winners in each category by going to their website, reef.org. If you like underwater photography or need a little inspiration for getting back underwater, check them out. I lost track of the deadline this year and didn't enter any of my stuff, and I did not vote. I need to keep better track next year. It's always fun to take a chance. I received the Oceana October newsletter recently, and the top story comes out of California. It said that California bans plastic bags at grocery stores. Now, wait a minute. Didn't they already do this? Well, sort of. You see, I think California was the first state to implement a plastic bag ban, but it was for those thin plastic bags that are still prolific in many states. They did not ban the thick plastic film bags. Bad move. The result is that with these thicker plastic bags being used instead of the thin ones, more plastic bags by weight are being thrown away. They estimate that in 2021, 460,000 pounds of bags were thrown out. Well, the governor signed a bill recently to close this loophole, but it doesn't go into effect until January 1st, 2026. That's another 14 plus months until stores will only be allowed to offer paper bags. Across the U.S., 12 states have banned bags, while hundreds of cities across 28 states have laws on the books prohibiting plastic bags. I've got to tell you, here in Connecticut, we have the ban, and I don't miss the bags at all. Perhaps more states will see the benefit, and maybe someday the whole country will stop using this wasteful product. This one is for all you dive watch aficionados out there. It looks like Fourth Element is coming out with the new Fourth Element Pelagic Watch. They state it's British design meets Swiss craftsmanship. The watch is very sleek with a black face and bezel, and on the top of the watch face is the Fourth Element's iconic logo. The watch is rated for a depth of 500 meters. It's a self-winding watch that when it's fully wound, it'll give you up to 38 hours of reserve. The pelagic watch case is made of 316L stainless steel, and you can get it with a 22 millimeter silicone rubber strap or a brushed stainless steel bracelet. I'm partial to the rubber straps. Here's another interesting design feature. The back has a sapphire crystal glass exhibit window, so you can see the Swiss movement. The Fourth Element watch is packaged with all recycled material as part of their Ocean Positive mission. This is not an inexpensive watch, priced at $1,975 US. Me? I'm a big fan of the Citizen Dive watches with their eco-drive technology, but this one looks really nice if you have the money to spend. Here's something that I found very interesting. And if you are into old shipwreck stories with a twist, this one is very unique. The ghost ship of the Pacific was recently discovered off the California coast within the Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary. The ghost ship is actually the USS Stewart DD-224, a 1920 Clemson-class destroyer. Now, it was found by underwater drones. The group discovering the ship consisted of Ocean Infinity, the Air/Sea Heritage Foundation, NOAA, and the Global Maritime Archaeology Organization, SEARCH. It was found at a depth of 3,500 feet. Now, the Stewart had an interesting life. It was severely damaged by the Japanese in 1942. The damages were so bad that the U.S. Navy scuttled the ship, but the Japanese Navy raised it and put it into service primarily for escort duty. The Navy reclaimed it at the end of the war and then used it for target practice, where it was sunk in 1946. And now it is found again in over 3,000 feet of water sitting upright on the bottom. I wonder how many other stories like this are yet to be told. Now, I recently came across an article on the Forbes online site, and it was written by Melissa Christine Marquez about satellite tracking of silky sharks. Melissa is a marine scientist and science contributor. The satellite tracking is part of a study conducted by Dr. Pago Salinas de Leon of the Charles Darwin Research Station and Nova Southeastern University. Nova Southeastern University mascot is the shark, and they are big into shark studies and research. The news for this study is about a female silky shark that was tagged in the Galapagos Marine Reserve, and they tracked its migration over 16,777 miles. Wow, that's long. And most of this migration was in international waters, about 99%. And it was west and south of the Ecuadorian exclusive economic zone around the Galapagos. This is an area that's heavily fished and probably overfished, and the sharks are being subjected to bycatch. In all, the study has tagged 88 more sharks, so they'll continue to track the migration patterns and maybe help to shape some regulations down the line. But this will be tough because the ocean is just so vast. And finally, ScubaDiverMag.com and DiverNet.com are merging. Going forward, the ScubaDiverMag.com site will be transitioned to DiverNet.com. The ScubaDiverMag.com site will be phased out and all of its content moved over. Rourke Media is the publisher of the 3 different Scuba Diver magazines. There's the original Scuba Diver magazine, Scuba Diver North America, and Scuba Diver Australia and New Zealand. In 2021, Rourke Media acquired DiverNet.com and has been running both websites since then. And as you can guess, that's a lot of overlap as well as time and expense. So they decided that DiverNet will be the go-to site, and it's expected that they will expand the content and develop a better user experience. The merger was set to take place on October 4th and 5th. If you haven't already, be sure to bookmark divernet.com and keep up to date on all things scuba. Well, that's it for this latest installment of Sea State here on the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast. For today's featured segment, I'm going to again focus on a topic related to ocean health and sustainability. Now, it's no secret that our coral reefs are facing dire threats around the world. Whether it be from ocean warming, bleaching events, pollution, or other disasters, coral reefs are in danger and quite possibly in danger of extinction. Yes, it can happen. Remember the passenger pigeon in the United States, from billions to none in a generation. Today, over 1 million species across the planet face extinction, and corals are not immune. So at COP16, that's the Conference of Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, there will be an emergency special session on coral reefs. COP16 is also known as the United Nations Biodiversity Conference and is taking place October 21st through November 1st, 2024 in Cali, Colombia. The Conference of Parties was initiated in 1992 at the Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro, and that's when it was open for signatures. The first conference was in 1994 in the Bahamas, and they meet roughly every 2 years. COP15 was held in 2022 in Montreal. Currently, there are 196 parties to the conference with 168 signatures. This emergency special session on coral reefs is being convened by the United Nations Secretary General's Special Envoy for the Ocean, HE Ambassador Peter Thompson. The special session will include the International Coral Reef Institute, ICRI, the Global Fund for Coral Reefs, GFCR, along with representatives from coral states, reef activists, and scientists. The special session is being called in response to the ongoing 4th Global Coral Bleaching event, which is the most extensive on record, affecting more than 75% of coral reefs worldwide. Last time on the podcast, I told you about the recent events in Florida, where last year there was a 77% loss of genetic biodiversity of elkhorn coral because of the unprecedented warm water. Now, at this special session, the most up-to-date scientific analysis on coral reefs will be presented. In addition, they will discuss the state of corals around the world and the impact so far from this 4th global bleaching event. They hope to develop strategies and action steps to help protect corals and come up with scalable resiliency measures. These measures and action steps need to be developed for both the public and private sectors to avert extinction. Why is this so critical to the United Nations is convening this special session at the Biodiversity Conference? Well, it's estimated that about 25% of all marine life, or more than 1 billion people, depend on healthy reef systems. When you factor in the impacts to food security, coastal protection, and the economic value of coral reefs, you can see the need to address this issue now. From a historical perspective, the 3rd global bleaching event happened between 2014 and 2017. At that time, they estimated that 65.7% of coral reefs globally were impacted. Not sure how they fared after the bleaching event ended, but obviously there was not a lot of time for them to recover between the 3rd and 4th event. As the climate continues to change and the oceans continue to heat up, intervention is needed. We all know about the efforts to curb carbon emissions and hopefully slow down global warming, but intervention is also needed to support greater resiliency of corals to the effects of climate change and bleaching recovery. And that is specifically why this special session has been called. As Ambassador Thompson says, the window is closing rapidly and solutions must be scaled up urgently. Now, COP16 on biological diversity plans to build on COP15, and the agreements reached there in 2022, known as Kummig-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Just what is that? Well, this is only a framework, and it's an agreement on targets for addressing biodiversity loss, restoring ecosystems, and protecting indigenous rights. The target is to protect 30% of the planet and restore 30% of degraded ecosystems by 2030. Wow, that doesn't give much time, especially since the 2022 agreement didn't have specific plans or funding. So COP16 is intended to build out the framework with concrete plans for meeting those targets. Okay, let's take a look at the timing of this conference. It will wrap up right before the presidential election here in the United States. The United States government representatives at the conference will be from the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of State, and the Department of Interior. As we know, these agencies are primarily led by the current administration. We also know that as administrations potentially change, there is a whiplash effect. We saw that with the Paris Climate Agreement. We here in the United States were in, then we were out, and for now we are back in. So even if there are concrete plans for meeting these targets, there are no guarantees that the commitments will remain over time. So if you want to learn more about all the activities happening in Cali, you can check out the website cop16forcoral.org. This is packed with information about the happenings at the #4Coral Pavilion at the conference. They indicate on the website that all of the events will be live streamed, so if you have the time and interest, you can drop in for special sessions. There's a lot. Look, as a scuba diver, I've seen the continued decline of coral reefs. I've seen what bleaching looks like. I've seen what coral disease looks like. And I've seen the results of what chemicals and pesticides have done. Most people don't get to see this underwater ecosystem. They have never experienced the thrill of being on a coral reef, nor have they seen the loss of a coral reef. And it may be difficult for many to appreciate the value. There is so much going on in the world today. Wars, famines, natural disasters, so many things that challenge us every day and challenge our leaders every day. It seems the number of issues is too overwhelming. Well, yes, we can be overwhelmed, but we still need to hope that by continued efforts like the COP16 special session on coral reefs, the action steps will be developed. Let's hope that they can be taken before it's too late. Extinction can happen, and can happen very quickly. On Sunday morning, I will hopefully be doing my first dive on Cayman Brac and getting a first-hand look at the state of the coral reefs there. Just what will I find? Spoiler alert, next episode I will give you a trip report. Until then, thanks for tuning in. And to stay up to date, please subscribe to the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean podcast on your favorite podcast player. We're on all of them. Bye for now. This has been the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast, a show dedicated to the world of scuba diving, ocean health, sustainability, and fostering a new generation of ocean stewards through diving education. Talk to you again real soon.